Greetings! Welcome back to Divine Rising New Earth, the high vibe variety show where we broadcast the frequency of the new earth now. I'm Annika.
I'm Callista, and this frequency is your access point to cosmic energy updates, esoteric insights, and quantum tools to support you in navigating our collective ascension.
We're so happy to be back. It's been a minute. How are you, Divine Risers? Tell us in the comments.
It has been such a long time. I think the last episode we filmed, which we just released recently, was back in July. And with all the cosmic weather that's been happening, it's been so much. Well, right now it's Mercury retrograde, and I think there was a time when all the planets were direct, which was rare, and I really noticed the shift, and it's kind of a relief to me, the contrast from so much new experiences, and it was out of the norm.
Yeah, wow, that's true.
Yeah, but now that it's Mercury retrograde, I've been noticing a lot of latergrams. I'm going to be posting a latergram carousel from the summer. I feel like it's so the energy that people have been so caught up since then, and we're just now going back.
Yeah. The energy over the summer was so potent. I feel like the summer is always so galactic in its energy. It's very cosmic and high vibrational. And I feel like this summer was on a whole other level, to the point where it was an effort to remain grounded and in touch with reality, because so much cosmic energy and so many cosmic codes were coming in. I feel like I could have run 20 marathons in a day. Not actually, but it was wild. And so many storylines, so many peak episodes. It was as if every single episode was the finale or something. So yeah, like Callista said, the energies are grounding out a little bit. So many planets are retrograde right now, right? Most of them. So it's kind of a time where we can almost review everything that's happened and consolidate and decide how we want to move forward. And we're so happy to revisit Divine Rising New Earth. We've been moving into so many other projects and amazing things. I mean, we'll leave links in our bio, but Callista and I both have our own channels. If you love Divine Rising New Earth, I think you'll love both of them. She has Mystic Callista TV. I just have my own channel under Annika Boone. And yeah, we both have a lot of fun content, and I miss doing this though. I'm so happy to be back, and we miss you, Divine Risers.
Yes, we've been starting so many new things, and I think that we did not forget about Divine Rising New Earth, and we did not leave it behind, but there's been so much fresh energy coming in that we really wanted to take advantage of it, to plant our seeds, and then we know the divine timing will come back around for us to continue to build on the foundations that we already previously established. But we love Divine Rising New Earth, and there is only more and more cosmic activity and changes on the horizon. So we are so happy to be able to support you through all of that if you stick with us.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the past episode, definitely check out the Water Snobs episode. Super fun. Yeah, like Callista was saying, a second guest we had on the pod. We literally taste test the best waters that we could find from literally all over the world. Very fun, very dynamic.
Shout out Brandon.
Yes.
Yep, abundance architect. And we cover a great number of topics: manifesting, abundance, angel numbers, get into water, why we're water snobs, what makes one water preferable to us.
Mm-hmm.
So check it out.
And try them in real time. Yeah, it was so fun. Today we're going to talk about a few things, but we're going to start off with a little energy update, because it is a really potent time of year. We're at the end, if you're watching this in real time, we're at the end of November 2025, and 2025 is a 9-year. 2 + 2 + 5 = 9, so it holds the energy of 9. And I do consider myself kind of a novice astrologer, and I think astrology is so fun, but I have a love for numerology that I think goes beyond astrology, because it is slightly more cut and dry. Astrology is so poetic and so up to interpretation of the energies, because it's the planets and the signs, they have personality. They're dynamic. They're alive. each person's relationship to that energy also is so different. So like what one person thinks about an energy, it's like you can tell a beautiful story and it can be so true, but it can be different than somebody else's story about the energy. But like numerology is pretty much like, this is the vibe. And 9 energy is so cool because we technically run in cycles 1 through 9. And so we'll go into a new 9-year cycle starting in 2026. It'll start back over at 1. And when I've looked at my life in terms of these 9-year cycles, it's pretty profound. Like basically what you were doing in 2017 was the beginning of this 9-year cycle. So you probably in this past year have noticed themes coming up around like energies that first were planted and first were in the ideation phase in 2017. And it's like we've gone on this whole hero's journey since then. And this is the closing out of that. And then we'll begin something totally new. So it's a really powerful time to just notice what is coming up, to basically grok how far you've come. Give yourself space to reflect and kind of congratulate yourself for all the things big and small. It's really good to start to recognize everything that you have cultivated and all the blessings that life has provided you, so that your consciousness starts to look for the blessings and look for the progress that you've made, because it will create more of it. So you definitely want to use your mind to like spin the most positive reflection of this 9-year cycle and everything that has occurred. And then also because we're at the tail end of the year and we have like 1 more month left, I think there will be things that come up to kind of close out like the final iteration of these energies for you, maybe some lessons, but like you'll be prepared to face them because you've now become the person who can accomplish, and you've become the person who can accomplish like what you set out to have and create in 2017. It's like if you had a vision for what you wanted to experience or create, you were put through the hero's journey to become the person who could have those things and who could create those things. So in some way, like you've gone through a transformative journey, and there will be final things that come up, I think almost not even to test you, but to show you that you've become that person. And so it's kind of just cool to notice that in real time. And then on top of that, I feel like a lot of the blessings of everything that we've cultivated from who we have become will flood in as we round out this year before we start this new cycle. And 2026, I think we'll probably do a whole episode on 2026, but it's technically 1. So we're going to start a whole new cycle. And then in some forms of numerology, they do count the 10. And 10 is like the radiant body. It's like letting yourself be seen in like your own royal nature. So it's almost like it's a new cycle and a new level. And then on another level, it's your chance to display your embodiment of everything that you cultivated in the past 9-year cycle. So letting yourself be seen for your gifts, offer what you have at the same time as you learn more and attain more for this next level that we're entering.
I love that. The 1 and the 10, the completion and culmination kind of like on display type thing, because completion is one thing and then there is almost exhibition, and then the 1 is like a beginning, and it is giving me the energy of rebirth because you are going through a process and then you are like emerging. So it's like the beginning of a whole new chapter, and it is also basically like the fruit of like the whole culmination of this process that you just went through. And we just had a new moon in Scorpio, so rebirth is also possibly a major theme in the air. The other thing is it really makes me think, okay, because we also had recently Uranus changing signs, which only happens every 7 years. And then we also have been having recently it retrograding back. So it's going from Taurus to Gemini.
It went from Taurus to Gemini and then it retrograded back
to Taurus.
Yeah.
But that's the last time it will be in Taurus and before going back into Gemini and moving on from there. And when it first entered Taurus was like around 7 years ago. I have been reflecting on that 7-year cycle. And so then when you're talking about a 9-year cycle, I'm like, okay, what was then? 9 years ago, I was really discovering my academic passions. Like I was really getting into philosophy. I was really getting into urban planning, which now I think has so much to do with the new earth. So I also wanted to ask what was just kind of emerging for you 9 years ago.
Well, 2017 was the year I graduated college. And that was the year that like I kind of fully stepped onto the I think of it as like an alchemist journey or like the hero's journey of like my spiritual path, because I was studying business at college and then I was gonna go work in like some tech sales job in San Francisco. And I was like getting into all the spiritual stuff. I was doing a lot of yoga. I was working for this woman who had her own entrepreneurship ventures as a spiritual teacher, spiritual healer. And I was like really starting to get into all this stuff and see that like there were other things that were possible. And it was literally the year that I like said no to that job, like retracted my acceptance of that job, decided to stay in LA, literally with the explanation of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like I need to follow this and see what can come of it, because like my soul is like, no, 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 no. Like I literally had been like praying to the universe, like show me another way, show me another way, show me another way. And then I literally, that was like the fork in the road. And so now we're here.
I think
we're doing like, it. You know what
amazing.
I mean?
That's like really what we stand for at Divine Rising New Earth. We will always support you in following your intuition against all previous logic. Yeah.
Exactly. That is the other thing to remember, that like the 9 years from then to now, the first third of the 9 years, I had some blissful moments and I had some moments of like so lost, so confused, had no idea what to do. The second third was like a lot of healing. I kind of felt like I was like getting somewhere, but it was still like a lot of like death to my old self. Like so many moments where still I would look back at like the other fork in the road and like, did I make the right choice? All of these things. And then the final third, I was like really anchoring into the ideation of the direction I wanted to go in at the beginning of that 9 years. So it's like, there's not some pretty picture of like when you follow your intuition, like it's all going to be perfect right away, but you are guiding yourself and being guided towards a place where like your soul does feel more free and your soul does feel more authentically expressed. I have to say it's like, so it's the most worth it thing ever. But like, it wasn't like always sunshine and rainbows.
Oh, never is. And it's such a trip too. The middle third of this 9 year cycle being 2020 to 2023. It's like we were on a collective journey.
100%. So profound. The COVID period.
Oh my gosh, that was such a trip. Like, wow. Because the 9 year cycle is so collective.
Very much collective.
Yeah, you know, like everyone who's ascribing to this calendar of year system, which is a pretty big majority of the population. So that was just such an fascinating container of energy. Unprecedented, as they say.
Unprecedented.
But yeah, everyone really had their own journey that was like a whole vibe.
Were you living with your parents or were you living with Maddie Bond?
Kind of both. 2020 to 2023, I started living with my parents, moved to Capitol Hill with Maddie, moved back in with my parents, and then moved to LA before that ended.
You're right, we did move to LA. Yeah, that's so true. Anyway, there are so many other cycles to take into account, like Calista said. Even on a personal level, you know, they say 7 years is a cycle of consciousness.
And 7 years, every cell in your body gets replaced.
Yeah.
I always think about that. The 7 year cycle is very potent to reflect on. I love
100%.
that. And
Totally
even
agree.
just 2025, the year,
Yeah,
closing out.
literally chills.
Even though, and we haven't fully exposed ancient Rome on this podcast, but it really connected a lot of dots for me when they talk about the matrix and how distorted certain things are. A lot of that actually originates in ancient Rome, which kind of clears up a lot of the mystery. Like this calendar, for example, much of it was established by the Roman Empire. And I've spoken in the past about how the like cultural trend of setting goals for the year in the deepest depths of the winter just is not my natural rhythm. And it is kind of artificially installed by the Roman Empire. That said, you know, it's still an interesting and potent time to reflect.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. It's like there's so many layers to the reality now. Absolutely.
And I love seasons. And even a year, I don't even know. But like a season, like the winter coming up or from one winter to the next or one spring to the next, and even thinking the vibes of the winter when it comes to rest and stillness. I've been thinking recently how with my goals and my habits, one room for improvement that I want to cultivate is more reading and writing. And that is actually pretty aligned for like a more quiet inward season.
That's ultimately what the library was intended for. You know, we might be the lab now, but we could still be the library every once in a while. The lab contains a library. It's like
the library, the lab.
The library's not gone.
It's a university campus in this bitch.
University campus. New Earth you. You know, I was gonna say that Dan Coe, he's always like, if you can't like explain your thought processes well, like you're not reading and writing enough, because like that's what gives you the power to explain your ideas. And I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, I'm such a hater on journaling sometimes because like so many reasons, but I am like, I get it. I really
He's part of my inspo.
Dan, come on the pod.
Oh my gosh, we would love that. In our next segment, we wanted to go back to our roots. For those of you who don't know, Annika and I hosted the podcast Brainwash Yourself, and it was about reprogramming the subconscious mind based on the premise that we each create our own reality. Basically, we generate it, project it, however you want to look at it, from our identity, our awareness, our beliefs, and a lot of that is in the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is extremely malleable when we're very, very young, and we absorb a lot of programming, and not all of it is to our advantage. As adults, conscious beings, we have the ability to reprogram our subconscious mind with more advantageous beliefs so we can generate a more preferable reality. And we really covered the topic. That's why we expanded to Divine Rising New Earth, to take on a more collective perspective with the different subjects we were inspired to explore. But we wanted to make a reminder segment about brainwashing yourself.
I feel like I would always benefit so much when we were doing Brainwash Yourself by like every single episode we did was like a check-in, and like I would revamp my commitment to my mental diet, because it's like a practice in a way that it's not just something you do once and then you leave it behind, especially in a world that contains so much programming that might actually be very much so the opposite of the way that you want to operate. It takes having diligence with your mindset. I mean, I always want to do this like every once in a while for us to revisit it on this podcast, just to re-inspire each other around cleaning up and like refining and supercharging our mental diet, because it really is one of those things when like I feel like so many things are going wrong, or like I feel just like down. If I do the small little upticks in my daily routine around my mental diet, that is what changes everything. Any sort of like physical effort, besides like working out daily, which I think is very good for your mindset, that I do will not have nearly the impact as going to the root and getting back to a routine around subliminals, affirmations, meditation, breath work, counting my blessings, gratitude. It's like all the little things that gear your mind towards a certain projection and towards looking for specific things that will literally take somebody from an experience of hell to an experience of heaven, and like nothing else needs to change. So I just thought that nearing the end of the year, we were joking about it so much last year because people started to get so ahead of New Year's resolutions that it was like, right now we're going to start preparing for 2027.
Yeah,
everybody get ready.
2027 winter arc right now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, just like how far ahead of the game can you get? Right now, take out your list. We're going to start writing
we're a year ahead
a
of you
routine
guys.
for 2035. Yeah. Which shout out to that one guy on YouTube who always will date his stuff in the
Schultz.
future.
Shout out JB Schultz. He's been in 2026 for years.
But anyway, I like usually like to start doing little things prior to the new year when like everybody is panicking about New Year's resolutions, which I'm actually like not even into, but I still always like to, prior to the new year, get myself in the best position to just like be feeling my best on the new year. And so I feel like it's a really good time to re-inspire around our practices. Maybe you've been really on lock. I always keep a certain consistent level of, you know, I always listen to subliminals overnight. I always do, you know, my yoga practice in the morning. There's
Well,
certain
it's a
things that
lifestyle.
there's certain things that I never skip, but I do have times where I like really get back on a routine and I'll be like, okay, no, I'm going to do this morning affirmation tape for the next 40 days and my life will change. And so honestly, I wanted that for myself. So I want it for all of you. So I thought we could talk about it and re-inspire each other, hear what you've been doing, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I love it, and it really is a lifestyle. And I feel like that type of phrase that people say that's like, always be brainwashing yourself, always be manifesting, because the gag is you always are, and you can't help it. So, are you doing it consciously or not? Right? And even though we don't put out a new episode every week about mindset and manifesting and creating your own reality and stuff like that, doesn't mean that we're not still studying and learning, and like our approach hasn't changed since the last Brainwash Yourself episode, or our understanding hasn't deepened. We've been really into Eric, The Power of I Am on YouTube, as well as Cafe Binge, who I think we've mentioned. But the message that gets hammered home for me is reality doesn't respond to what you want, what you do. It responds to who you are. Who are you being? And who you're being is basically a reflection of who you believe you are in your mind, a reflection of your self-concept. And you can change that based on how you want to be. And then that is what will then get you the results. So it's about changing first so that the reflected projection of your reality mirrors that. There's infinite stimuli available here, and our mechanism, human body, extremely miraculous advanced technology, has such limited capacity to process it. And that's why it automates so much. Once it believes something is consistent, it just makes that a default. So you can focus on other things that, for whatever reason, have a higher level of priority in your consciousness. And that's kind of the trick, is like we want to have a meta awareness of where all of that consciousness is being distributed versus automated, because that is where we can be our own downfall and our own worst enemy. So that's why our motto at the end of Brainwash Yourself used to always be stay sharp, because as soon as you have brainwashed yourself, boom, you got to brainwash yourself again, because it's like you brainwashed yourself into a version of yourself that now is on autopilot, and is that reflecting now what your soul is truly calling for, and blah, 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 blah. And it's so fun. It's a great journey, but that's the same thing with manifesting. Like when you're generating your own reality, always be manifesting. You're always manifesting, like to the point that you've never had like a blank error in like the walls and sun coming up and stuff like around you in your physical reality, is the extent to which you've always been manifesting. So what is it that you're doing? I've also been thinking about Esther Hicks saying 17 seconds of alignment is better than 1,000 hours of hard labor, or whatever she says. I've also been thinking about like really how things work, like your chakras, right? The energy body, your heart field, like you have an electromagnetic field going on, a toroidal field, the coherence of that, the power of that, right? We have different energetic systems and mechanisms, how they work based on our human design. Having this awareness, it's like knowledge is power. Once you know more about these mechanisms, you can direct your energy in a more potent way to an area of focus that is going to have a more powerful impact. For example, the different brain waves, right? When you're sleeping in deep sleep, you are at a very different brainwave state than when you are most alert. And in between, you have these states, like for example, the theta state, where you're a little bit, what's real, what's a dream, and you're a little bit hypnotized, and you're a little bit in a trance, and you're a little bit sleepy, like right before you fall asleep or right when you wake up. There's also something in your brain called a reticular activating system. And so with all this infinite stimuli, what's relevant to pay attention to? Like when you're going to your job interview, do you need to be counting how many bricks are on the pathway to get there? No, you don't. You need to be noticing what time it is. Are you at the right building for your job interview? Because your brain is filtering what's important to you, which is your job interview, for various reasons. and it will literally select out of all the infinite stimuli available, evidence and material circumstances that are aligned with whatever you're focused on. And for the most part, we don't have a lot of control over what that is because we're on autopilot, because we got programmed a lot when we were kids. When we're 1 to 7, when our brain is always in theta state, right? So that's why we were so absorbent. But when you're waking up and going to sleep in your theta state, first thing in the morning, if you play an affirmation or a tape or you read a little something that sets your mind towards your desired result, then that will literally program your brain for the whole day to select images from your reality that are aligned with that. And that one affirmation that you see first thing waking up in the theta state is going to be more potent than listening to the affirmation for an hour later on in the day when you're already locked into like your usual identity and you're thinking like, oh, are these affirmations working? I'm not saying there's not benefit to that, but you're just in a whole different mind state. And that's the same thing as like, for me, I recently lost my job and I was so excited, and I have been having so much inspiration and creative ideas and so many goals for the future. And it is a lot in terms of time management and organization that I am working on. Sometimes I just need to remind myself, like, you could edit all your footage perfectly for 12 hours straight tomorrow, and that would not get you closer to your goals than if you sat for 17 seconds and just felt like the person who got it all done and it all went perfectly. So just kind of taking that moment to like check out, check in, and think like, where am I really going? And generate from there.
That is a freaking tea. I feel like the energy of the moment is so like work smarter, not harder, especially with all these quantum techniques, because exactly, you could spend all day doing every single one of your healthcare things for hours and hours and hours, or you could focus on what Calista just said, take advantage of right before you fall asleep, right before you wake up, and then also continually tuning into that 17 seconds of embodying the end state of your desires. That will be the most potent foundation you can have. And then from there, it's like anything extra is great. But it's like, if you don't have that, you're working off of like just so much more of a disadvantage than if you were doing that. So I feel like that is literally perfect. That
and
is tea.
And it sounds
That's
also
tea.
all over the place, but like just to bring it all together, like you need to check in with yourself. What do you want? Align with that identity. And then from that identity, then you can make better decisions for even like the affirmation that you want to put on your nightstand right when you wake up in the morning. And then it kind of keeps you in that state. And when you are embodying that and you tune into your heart center, you know what I mean? If you practice your breathing, your yoga, your self-regulation, this is all going to really improve your experience. And then the more you can really embody and stay coherent with this energy field of your desired expression, then that just mechanically will generate that reality. It's really just that simple. Knowledge is power, and knowing how things work. If you are like applying the art and the science to it, you can keep expanding your practice.
That was the tea. Yay! Thank you so much for tuning in to co-create the new earth with us.
We continue to broadcast the frequency of New Earth Now on YouTube, Instagram, and your favorite podcast platform.
Support this transmission and amplify this frequency by subscribing, liking, commenting, reviewing,
and above all, sharing with a fellow divine riser.
Until we meet again in the eternal now.
Flourish!